Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Welcome to Coach the Coach, helping business coaches deliver more impact in less time. Broadcasting live on the High Velocity Radio Show and the Business Radio X network. If you're a business coach and want to help more people make more money and own your backyard, go to brxteam.com. Lee, this is going to be a fantastic show, and I think probably if we were ever going to visit with someone in the coaching arena that knew about building teams and expanding a network and scaling a business, this is probably your guy. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast with franchisecoach.net, franchise coach and consultant, Mr. Adam Goldman. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Well, Adam, before we get too far into things, do you mind telling us a little bit about the franchise coach practice you have going on?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. So I've been in the franchise business for 8 years now. And what I do, I was a successful franchisee with an office cleaning, a master franchise concept in Houston. I provide a free service to potential franchisee candidates to help them find the right franchise business opportunity. I'm an industry insider. I really have a pulse on what's going on in the franchise industry. And a lot of my candidates tell me that there are 4,000 brands and it's just very hard to find out which is the right business for them. And it's a free service. If I make a successful match, I get compensated by the franchisor. And it's just a really interesting, exciting business.
Now, can you explain a little bit some of the terms, like you mentioned, master franchisee? What's the difference between a franchisee and a master franchisee?
So it's funny you should mention that because franchising has a lot of lingo that's kind of internal. So a master franchisee is someone that has the rights to sell franchises in a specific territory. And that's what I had under this cleaning concept in Houston, Texas.
And then a franchisee is just somebody who may own just one of the locations. Is that how it works?
That's correct. If someone's a franchisee, they have the right to a territory for a specific brand from a franchisor.
And then the franchisor owns the brand.
That's correct.
And then why would a franchisor kind of grow via franchising rather than having owned and operated stores or whatever their concepts are?
That's great that you should mention that because my example is I have a hair salon concept that has realized that their corporate-owned stores are just underperforming franchisee-owned stores because the franchisees have more skin in the game. And so it's a really, really good growth strategy for franchisors, and it's a great opportunity for franchisees if they get into the right opportunity.
Now, do you find that most franchisees are people who want to be entrepreneurs, or are they typically people who maybe are onto a second act of their career? Like, what does a profile of a franchisee look like?
So that's very interesting you should mention that because I think of potential franchisees as being put into two huge buckets. The first bucket are people that want to be owner-operators. And I think that the example for that would be someone that runs a Chick-fil-A. You're going to be there from 9 to 5 and maybe even later than 9 to 5 because you're running a very complex organization. You might actually be closing the Chick-fil-A store at 2 a.m. So you really can't have a day job for those sort of opportunities. The second type of opportunity, which I have a lot of people that are interested in, is something where you can run the business semi-absentee, meaning you can have your day job, but this is something that you have on the side. And it could even be an exit plan from corporate America. And so the example is if you go to an Orange Theory Fitness, you never see the owner of Orange Theory Fitness there. And also, if you go to a franchised hair salon, you never see the owner there also. They have managers running it for them.
And then if somebody is interested in that type of an operation, they're more the person that funds it and then is in charge of putting the right people in place as opposed to the person doing the actual work?
That's correct. Absolutely. And that's the misconception that a lot of people have about franchising. They think it's only McDonald's and French fries. There are 4,000 brands. And so this second type, where you're just a kind of a semi-absentee person that might be putting in only 5 or 10 hours a week, that's actually a very attractive option for a lot of the folks that I talk to.
Now, how do you help kind of match up the right type of opportunity with the individual? Because I know, like, we're here in Atlanta, and there's periods of time where all of a sudden you see seemingly dozens of yogurt shops, and then all of a sudden half of them go away, and then there's dozens of hamburger places or hot chicken places, and they seem to kind of ebb and flow. Do you help kind of the franchisee or potential franchisee kind of match up with their personality and what they're trying to do, the right opportunity?
That's exactly what I do. So it's a process and a system that I actually went through 9 years ago when I decided to invest in my franchised office cleaning business. The first part of the process is I ask my candidates to fill out a questionnaire after a brief conversation. And then I have a longer conversation with my candidates where I just really want to get to know them really well. And I can really dig deep and find out what really the characteristics of the brand that they're looking for, whether or not, what kind of employees they want to have, what kind of lifestyle they want to have, and what kind of things are really non-negotiable when they're searching for their different business opportunities. And then what I do is I create a model where I figure out, based on our conversation, what the most important things are, and I put it onto a piece of paper for the candidate. And then what I do is I go ahead and I have another conversation based on territory, where I connect them with the 3 brands based on territory availability in their market that match them the best, that are looking for franchisees that match their criteria.
Now, I noticed you didn't mention, like, the thing, like if they say, I really like fixing cars, so I want something in the fixing cars, that may not necessarily be the right fit for them, depending on their objective and their skills and their outcome they desire.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that I have a lot of times with my candidates is that they think that they want to open a Chick-fil-A. And when they really think about the characteristics of being a Chick-fil-A franchise business owner, it's really not what they're looking for. We're really focused on characteristics more than anything else. Just because you like McDonald's French fries doesn't mean you want to be a McDonald's franchisee.
And is that part of what you're doing, is managing the expectations of that candidate? You're helping them kind of understand what outcome they desire, not necessarily what they like to do. Just because, like you said, they like French fries doesn't mean they should open up a French fries franchise.
That's exactly what we're trying to do, because we're looking for people that can have the right sort of opportunity with the right characteristics. And look, when I went through this process 9 years ago, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I really have to I need to go ahead and own an office cleaning company. It just had the right characteristics for me. It was the kind of business that I could scale. It had a sales component where I was actually recruiting franchisees myself in Houston. It was a recurring revenue business where you keep 99% of your customers every month. So there's a lot of really good things about this business that weren't necessarily about office cleaning.
And that's where some people could kind of make a mistake if they went on their own, because they might self-select out of office cleaning because they think that it involves office cleaning, when in actuality there's not a lot of office cleaning involved.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I have all the time people say to me, Adam, thank you so much, because you've let me know about something that I didn't know even existed before, and this really matches my characteristics that I'm looking for.
So now, what's your biggest challenge as somebody who is seeking out these people that are interested or possibly interested in franchising? Like, do they hang out somewhere, or a lot of these people have jobs right now? Like, how do you even make them aware of what you're doing?
Well, the good news is I have a best-selling Amazon book called The Franchisee Lifestyle. And also I have a lot of very, very happy clients. And so a lot of my business is coming to me through referrals right now. So it really isn't a challenge right now to get business.
So are there a lot of people out there looking at this as a kind of way, as an investment, I guess, and also as a second career?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Franchising is very exciting right now. There's a lot of opportunity. But even more important than that is there are a lot of options too. As I mentioned, there are 4,000 brands. So right now in Las Vegas, there's an International Franchise Association show. And if you go through the show, you would see all these different opportunities that you probably didn't even know existed in franchise.
So what are some of the kind of the outliers? What are the non-traditional or maybe things that would surprise the listener in terms of franchises someone could get involved with?
So I have one person that decided to invest in a charity franchise, which was something unique. And you can actually buy a charity franchise, which I thought was very interesting. Look, the other thing too is that one of my favorite verticals of franchising right now is related to boutique fitness. And the reason why is it's the kind of thing that people like to invest money in. It's a recurring revenue business, and you can break even with only having a couple hundred members. There's an Orange Theory near my house that has a lot of members there, much more than the break even. And so it's just a great opportunity if you buy the right one.
Now, do you help people become franchisors, or is that something totally different?
So I'm sorry.
Do you help, like, say you're in Houston and you run across a business and you're like, hey, this would be a good franchise. Do you ever go up to them and say, hey, have you ever thought of franchising this?
So our business is actually taking existing franchisors and finding franchisees for them.
Right. I know that, but I didn't know if ever in your travels you've seen somebody and go, oh, this could work as a franchise.
So we see lots of potential franchises all the time. But there's one thing in between actually thinking you have a great idea and actually executing. And I'm only working with the top 5% or top 200 brands in the marketplace. It's very hard to franchise, to become a good franchisor, and it's a lot more complicated than people think it is.
And that's what makes it a good investment for people, because it has kind of stood the test of time and it's been vetted.
Absolutely. So when you're buying a franchise business, you're buying a brand and you're buying a process. And so it's very important for people to make sure that they're investing in the right sort of thing. They're investing royalty fees, and they're also investing a franchise fee for these two things. So we actually do a very good job of vetting to make sure that the processes exist. I mean, if you think about it, the reason why Coca-Cola is so successful is because they have a special formula, right? And the reason why KFC is so successful is they have a special recipe. And McDonald's has a handbook. And I would say that you're not able to actually see McDonald's handbook if you're looking to buy a franchise from McDonald's, but you really can, during your due diligence, make sure that that exists. And so it's important for candidates to really find out and make sure that the system and process is worthwhile to invest in.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Coach the Coach, helping business coaches deliver more impact in less time. If you're a business coach and want to help more people make more money and own your backyard, go to brxteam.com. So, Lee, you know this is my favorite part of the show, right? Where I get to ask questions that might help me in my own day-to-day.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Adam, I'm going to lean on some of your expertise. In hearing you talk, I don't know, the right word is probably envy. I'm envious because it sounds to me like you are so structured and have your ducks in a row so well that when you're talking with someone and helping them make this next set of important steps in their career, in their next chapter, that you've really got this thing figured out. So I wonder if you might not help me out a little bit. We're not a franchise, at least not yet, not a franchisor. And we are talking periodically to people for whom it might make sense to bring into the fold and become studio partners. And I don't know, when I'm talking to them, it's all rainbows and unicorns, and I have a feeling, I have a tendency to believe anyone can do it, and I'm not really good at this whole vetting thing. So any counsel you could offer me personally or any of our listeners in terms of structure, methodology, discipline to help the other person really make the right set of decisions, because this is important, man. This is their life and it's their livelihood. So anyway, I'll take all the help I can get.
Okay, got it. So, I mean, what you're talking about is structure, right? And this is, look, not every business is supposed to be a franchise business. Franchising is really highly regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. What I can tell you is that one of my favorite books is a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I really believe that everyone should read this book because if you think about it, the value in businesses is having systems and processes in place. And so if you have the right system, one of the things it talks about in the book is how people just spend too much time just kind of doing things around them and not really having a process or a way of doing things or systemization. And so this book really focuses upon having the right sort of process or system. And it talks about how important that is. And I found the book very interesting. And it really is a case for franchising in general, because if you have the right system in place, then you can scale a business.
Well, and that's important with a franchisee. That's what they're buying, is this kind of a package where it's all built for them. They don't have to create the wheel. The wheel's already been created.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was great advice. Now, let's talk about the book a little bit, the Franchisee Lifestyle. How'd that come about? Was that done from just people kept asking you and you said, I better start writing some of this down? Or how'd you decide to write a book?
I decided to write a book because I felt like it was important to have a book, and it's kind of like the case for franchising. When I went through this process 9 years ago, I didn't really have enough resources to look at. And I think it's just good to know. And one of the things I love about the book too is it's not only about me. I'm not able to say the name and the actual franchise brands that the three people that I interviewed in the book from are talking about, but to actually hear stories from people that have actually taken the leap and have had success in franchising, and just talking about just kind of a how-to guide for looking at different franchising or the case for franchise businesses. I think it's a very helpful thing for people that are looking for a franchise right now, because there is a lot of misconceptions out there, and I just thought it was really good to just kind of have a no-nonsense book on franchising.
And then you go through the different types of investments, like you mentioned, like it could be an owner-operated where it's more hands-on, or it could be more passive income where you're managing or just investing in the franchise.
That's correct.
So now, in terms of an investment, if I am, like, say I'm an executive at a big company and I get laid off or I retire and I still want to do some business stuff, a lot of these people, they start their own consultancies or they just go off on their own. Your suggestion, I guess, is, well, that's fine, but consider franchise as also part of your investment portfolio.
That's correct. That's correct. I'm a big believer in multiple streams of income. And look, you don't necessarily even have to leave your business in order for this to make sense. I have people all the time that are in corporate America that don't necessarily like corporate America, want an exit strategy, and they decided to have a semi-absentee brand on the side. A lot of people don't realize, too, that you can use your existing 401k to invest in a franchise.
Oh, so that can actually fund this next venture.
That's correct.
And is that part of the counsel, like when they're working with you or somebody like you, that you help them with that, to get the financing?
We actually connect them with the right professionals for financing of franchise businesses, because it's a special skill set for finance people. And so we need to make sure that they get connected with the right people.
So there's people who just specialize in helping people finance franchises?
That's correct.
And then you mentioned that you're not compensated unless they purchase a franchise, and then you get some compensation from the franchisor. So you spend a lot of your time just trying to help and serve people. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, for you, before we wrap, what would be a piece of actionable advice you can give somebody who's considering, making the leap and doing, this is their own business in some ways. So what piece of advice would you give that person who maybe have always worked for somebody else to, take that leap into the world of franchising?
The first thing they should do is call me. As I mentioned, my service is free. My phone number is 713-309-6776. My website is franchisecoach.net. And I just love to share my expertise in the franchise business. I talk anytime to anyone that's interested in exploring franchising to kind of share my knowledge and my expertise and see what I can do to help them.
Now, do you ever, do the franchisees, the people that you have helped connect with franchises, is there a network where they can help each other, or is there just kind of each franchise has its own kind of community of franchisees who help each other?
So there's a community inside of franchises. My service is confidential for people, but it's actually one of the big benefits of becoming a franchisee, this community inside of a brand. I know that when I had questions or issues, I was able to rely upon the other franchisees inside of my office cleaning franchise network. And a lot of my candidates that I've placed, they have the same sort of benefit whenever they get stuck.
And that's really, that's probably where you go to first, right? But as opposed to going to the franchisor, you go to the other people that are doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Now, what's been the most rewarding part of this kind of, I don't know if it's a pivot, but it's moving into the world of helping others get their own businesses? Can you share a rewarding success story that that you've been able to help somebody kind of make their dreams come true?
Well, I have an amazing couple that decided to invest in 10 locations for a boutique fitness concept. And it's going so well for them that they've actually sold over 100 memberships at one of their locations, even before they've even opened the doors. So pre-sales. So they're on track to making having great months, even within a couple months of opening their location, which is amazing. So that's been very rewarding. And one of the two people was not excited about work career, and they're just really, really excited about this. And to be able to make a difference like that is very rewarding for me personally.
Now, are you seeing, you mentioned husband-wife, are you seeing any parent-child combinations?
All the time.
So this is a great way to get your whole family involved in something.
Absolutely.
And then when you're working with a family, how do you kind of assess what's the right fit for everybody?
Well, it all depends on the family, right? It's an art, not a science. It's got to be something that really fits everyone, that they'd be all excited about. I have a candidate, a husband and wife, and a family, and she's very excited about the women's beauty segment, the eyelash extension industry. He's not as excited, so they're going to have to compromise on this.
Mm-hmm. And so you ask a lot of questions and try to really, because this is a big decision. You don't want to be wrong on this. So you want to ask a lot of questions to make sure that you match them up properly.
Absolutely.
Well, Adam, if somebody wanted to learn more, one more time, the website, and also, can you get the book at the website?
Absolutely. It's called The Franchisee Lifestyle. It's also on Amazon. It's also on the website too. And the website is franchisecoach.net.
Good stuff, Adam. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on Coach the Coach Radio.